All right. It says Cassandra from San Diego, California says, Frank's story of how his dream of being in the NBA ended due to him drinking and driving really hit home for me. Do you think his choice that night still haunts him? Absolutely. It's one thing when your dream ends and you're like, well, what could I have done differently? Or my God, and you have somebody to blame. But it's a whole nother thing when you know that you are the reason why something that you wanted so bad will never be. His injury left him with like a really bad knee problem. So the doctor told him, you'll never be able to play on that knee again. He was just too banged up. So yes, I definitely think that his dream, of wanting to play professional ball haunted him. How could it not? When it wasn't like this other person hit me or, you are to blame because you're not supposed to be out drinking and driving. Like, let's just call a thing here, people. You don't drink and you don't drive. You can end your life or you can end somebody else's life. Shut up. The way he was looking like, well, didn't you and T do something on a Valentine's Day? Yeah. I was drunk. T wasn't drunk. He let me sit back and have too much to drink, and he smiled because he knew at the end of the night I was just going to be like, well, whatever. But that's another day's story. But yeah, I definitely, I definitely feel like Frank is remorseful. When you have a dream and going to the NBA is not something that you just wake up on a Tuesday and be like, yo, I want to do that. And that's something you start working toward your, like that dream for a long time. You start conditioning yourself. So yeah. I definitely think that it still haunts him to this day. What about you, ladies?
Yeah, I definitely agree. How could it not? Like you said. And then to go from on your path to living a life of your dream, your passion, like, how many can say that you can get up and do something that you're passionate and that you love every single day? And you were on that, and now your life has been altered to doing something that you hate, you really don't like, you really don't want to do, like that has to eat at Frank, all the time. I couldn't imagine if I couldn't get up and do art every day or, anything else. It would be like, oh, that would be tough.
Yes. And do you see how the devil do you? That's all I'm gonna say.
Girl, you too much. You a hot mess. You see how the devil do you? That is her. That's her word. That is her word. All right. So the next question is for you, Kyrie.
Deidre from Greenville, South Carolina says, when Frank got the call from Chan on his wife's phone, it sent chills down my spine when he said he didn't want to dirty up Sandy's blue dress. And Frank realized his wife was wearing a blue dress. Did Chan send someone down there to make sure Frank didn't tell the police who had beaten him? Yeah, I don't think Chan's too scared of the police, but he is going to put a tail on his investments, just like, we see what he's been doing with Malia. But yeah, I got chills too. That was such a dope scene. He's like, yeah, about to dirty up your wife's blue dress. And then he looks out and sees, oh my God, like, could you imagine somebody calling you and you're in your house or you're at the store and they tell you what you're wearing? Yeah, I'm watching you. You got that pink shirt on. Be like, I'm booking it. I am running up out any place, anywhere. If somebody ever called me like that, like, I'm just going to go sit outside the police station. But yeah, I like that scene. It was like, ooh, it's getting good now.
I actually kind of had an experience sort of like that. I had went to Walmart. I was shopping, came home, mind my business, and this guy who pops up every couple of years called me and told me that I looked very beautiful at Walmart today. And yeah, my stomach almost fell in my ass. I told you about him. Yeah, my stomach went straight down into my butt. But to answer the question, I kind of chuckled a little bit. I don't know what's wrong with me. I thought it was a little funny. I thought it was a little funny. I don't know why. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I'm like, this guy is really, oh God, my hair. Okay. This guy is really gone. I'm like, wow. But then I wasn't too surprised. I mean, he was already working on bugging Malia's apartment and car, and I think the parents at the time too. So it would make sense that he would send somebody down there to make sure, Frank didn't get down there, and tell the nurses, you got to help me. They gave me the 1s and 2s, and they're after me. So yeah, he probably even had eyes on him at the time. Maybe somebody in the hospital was working for him. You don't know how far his reach is. Yeah. Yeah, that was great. What do you think, Corenna?
Yeah, I thought it was amazing for him to be like, don't make me dirty up your wife's blue dress. And in my mind, I'm very visual. I'm thinking, well, how would you do that? I'm just thinking, like, would you shoot her? Like, what would you do? Like, you gonna mess that dress up? So I'm thinking, fastest way to mess up anything is with some blood. So for Frank to, have the phone to his, his ear and then turn and look out the door of his room and see his wife standing at the nurse's station wearing that blue dress, it was like it all dawned on him. So he's like, okay, somebody's here. Somebody's definitely watching me, and I do believe that, because they're the ones who took him to the hospital in the first place and dropped him off. So, but I definitely believe that at that point he was like, tell this whole family, I want you to watch him. I mean, when you go to the ER, that place is packed full of people anyway. And like Alicia said, he could have even had somebody who worked at the hospital. So even after you leave the lobby and the chairs area and you move toward the back. So he does have a very far reach, and Chan knows that, but Frank doesn't know how deep or how far the reach goes, but he knows that it's pretty severe as well. I definitely think that he wanted to make sure that Frank wasn't going to get down there and start telling, the nurses or anybody, like, I know who did it, because this is the policy. I don't care if you go to the hospital and you look like, this could be an issue of domestic violence or like a crime was committed or you were hurt. Doesn't matter if you're like, it's okay. I don't want to call the police. They're calling the police anyway. The injuries that you have, they're like, that didn't just happen because you walked into a wall. You got beat the whole F down. Okay. And so even if you're like, don't call the police, they're calling the police anyway. And I think that Chan knew the police was going to be called. And so he was like, well, you just have somebody down there, ready to go. Because if he gets in there, he opens up his mouth, we're going to finish this off, And there was a part about the story that it talks about the triad being like silent killers, that they were like stealth. They didn't just go and make a big thing. They're not going to go blow your house and your car up. They had ways of like people just disappearing or people dying in unexpected or accidental ways where it didn't draw a lot of attention. We see people now dying of like fentanyl, right? And it's like, oh, okay, that person probably got some bad drugs. But who knows? Like, what if, I'm not saying anybody particularly because I don't know any stories, but I'm just saying like, it could be something like that where you wouldn't even think, did that person really commit, like, did this person really do this to themselves or were they poisoned? Did somebody put something in their drink? So the way that the triad is moving, they're not moving recklessly. They're very calculated. So could have been somebody who worked at the hospital that if you sat up there and you said something cool, because we're going to make sure we put something in a syringe and poke you with a needle and you go into cardiac arrest. Like, we're not playing with you, Frank. You know what I'm saying? This isn't a game. Chan wants what he wants and you're going to give it to him. Period. Next question.
You need this. Sorry, I had to say it. Lola from Kent, Ohio says, Malia's behavior at the club makes perfect sense after that scene where she was talking to her father about how he was the one who stole her money. How has this situation changed their relationship? He stole from her. That kind of ties in, well, to what I was saying earlier about like how big her heart is. Some people are easier, that not easier to forgive. Forgive easily. I guess, like her, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna let you two answer that, and then we'll circle back to me. I'm not sure. I'm just still, if it was me and my money was stolen from me, my my whole mood, I'm gonna write you off and be done. Even if I forgive you, I'm gonna forgive you, but you still stay over there. So, what do you think, Kyrie?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I definitely wouldn't be visiting nobody's hospital or nothing. Maybe if they called and said he was on your deathbed, I might. But I mean, it's just like, it's hard when you're harboring ill feelings towards someone. And this was a lot of money, like, and it just caused everything to crumble. Now you're being sued by businesses, and then you want to go and ghost me? You want to block me on junk like I did something to you? I cannot stand those people that they do something wrong to you, and then you're just like a little bit quiet. You're like, okay, I understand. You're sorry about it or whatever. But then they start treating you like you did something to them, or yeah. And so it's the craziest thing, So I feel like her dad was so wrong at doing that. Like, I wouldn't, like, and the fact that she just has so much heart and so much love. And I'm surprised that, it doesn't talk about her going to church every Sunday, because you got to be a God-fearing Christian woman to still be showing up to stuff after a certain level of hurt and pain, and not just be like, man, bump this and bump y'all too, so. Yeah, of course, it has drastically changed the relationship, especially after, he ghosted her. Yeah, I don't see how anyone can come back from that,
I agree. And again, if we're just looking at maybe some of Malia's behavior or how she's been feeling or how she's been looking at herself or the stress that she's been under, it makes perfect sense. Again, your dad, who's been a friend to you, who's been a hero to you, has now disappointed you in a really ugly way, and he didn't take responsibility for it. His way of dealing with stuff was like, let me block you. Let me just not answer your calls. And so, she's calling Nana. She's calling Papa. She's calling her mom, and her sister's like, he's not answering my calls. I got questions. And I know he has the answers, and I want to know. And not to even give her that, to just be like, I'm working it out. Don't you worry, honey. It really did sound like a person who has an addiction. It really sounded like an addict. He reverted back to all of his old ways. And he talked about he had been in, recovery from being a gambler for, 18 years. So he had gone a long time, but still old habits die hard. And I hear a lot of people say, I'll be an addict to the day I die. And I'm like, don't say that over yourself. But some people know that all it takes is like the right situation. All it takes is, something happening where that trigger, or like the trigger's pulled, you know what I'm saying? And then they fire, and then they're doing things that they're back at it again. And so you have to keep yourself really, you have to be honest with yourself. That's one thing I do like about people who do like AA programs, like 12 steps and stuff. From what I've seen, it's like they are just extremely honest. This is who I am. This is what I've done. They just telling everybody. I mean, you could just have met them 5 minutes ago and they tell you their whole story. You're like, but that's how they hold themselves accountable. They are holding themselves accountable by telling on themselves and acknowledging, I've done these terrible things and I'm doing the work to continue on to ensure that I don't do this again. The relationship has definitely changed. There's one point Malia goes over to the window and she's looking out the window and her mind is thinking about, I wonder where he at, but she's trying to be focused in the moment on her father. And he's talking to her and, she's kind of like, she's there, but you can tell she has an attitude and she's like, yeah, okay. Now he's telling her, I've got a plan. I met a man and he's going to help us deal with this money thing. And, Malia's like 28, 29 or whatever, right? And so if her father's been clean from, or I don't want to say clean, it's more like an alcohol or drug thing. But anyway, if he's been in recovery from gambling for the last 18 years, then that would meant that she was around during a portion of like seeing her dad at the age of 9 or 10 years old, seeing her father go through his addiction. And so this might be bringing up lots of memories of things happening with money and dad trying to, fix it and calling in favors and talking to the wrong people and just unnecessary drama. So he's talking about he wants to fix it and she's just like, no. But you could tell that even though she's there, something has visibly changed. Like, she seems very guarded. She seems very protected because you trust people. And when I trust people, I'm all in, baby. Like, I'm not questioning, I'm not doubting you. If you said the water is black, I'm believing it's black, because why would you lie to me? But the moment I figure out that you're a liar, all trust is gone. Like, everything that we've built, oh, you didn't tear that down, babe. You didn't burn the barn down. You feel what I'm saying? So I just definitely don't think that their relationship will be repaired anytime soon. I think that Frank has hurt her in a way and didn't take accountability. And it just looks like bad behavior is being repeated again. So yeah, their relationship has changed. I think Malia's been through a lot of difficult traumas, and Mike is now back being Mike, and all these things are happening. And this guy that she was wanting to possibly take upstairs and show him a lovely evening, he didn't get her phone number, so she was feeling some kind of way about that. Yeah, girl. So okay, I'm gonna stop talking. Go ahead.
I never thought about it until you said it, that Malia had to call her mom and her family and her grandparents and stuff and let them know what her dad did to her. And that made me think, how much betrayal is Malia actually feeling? Because even as of now in the book, we're learning about this, and I'm a few chapters ahead though. You don't really see anything about the family coming to right for her, So that has to be a level of hurt too. Like, mom didn't make sure dad got his butt on that phone and addressed me. Nobody called a family meeting. Nobody's showing up to help her with everything that's going on in the business. Like, she's just been left to figure it out on her own, So I can imagine that level of, betrayal that she could be feeling, that she isn't even able to express, because especially in a Black family, you don't open your mouth and disrespect your parents, So I can imagine how much she is suppressing just all of this, that's going on, and nobody's even stood up and had her back, even when it came to her own father doing what he did.
Yeah, you're right, because family dynamics run deep, and even when your parents are wrong, you just don't call them out, because I call people out on the carpet. That's just what I do. But I try it with my mom, and she's like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'm like, "Ma'am, I'm talking to you, because you was wrong about that." Mother Scott is not hearing none of that. She don't care if she was wrong 5 times in one day. You're not going to say nothing. So you learn, even as an adult, you suck up a lot of stuff that your parents do, because they're not going to take you questioning them or telling them that you're wrong. My mom. So yeah, I definitely think that makes it, a good point. And I think that a lot of times people are like, Malia is, she's resilient. She's resourceful. She'll figure this out. Daddy said he had a plan. Girl, do we really trust this Negro's plans at this point? Do we really want Frank doing anything extra? You've already gotten the family into one mess. Must we do more?
And got himself beat up in the process. Sorry.
Got himself beat down in the process. So yes, it's just a lot going on in her world. And I think from the outside looking in, you see this woman and she's beautiful, and she's well dressed, and she has her businesses, and she drives a luxury vehicle, and you just think, wow, she has the perfect life, and you have no clue behind closed doors. There's a lot of things going on that aren't so pretty. So, did you have something you wanted to add, Kyrie? Because I saw you come up off mute.
Yeah, I was just gonna say he deserved it.
You heard it right there, ladies and gentlemen. Kyrie said, Daddy Frank, he deserved that work. All right. So the next question comes from Ashton from Bloomington, Minnesota. Says, Malia is a grown woman. Do you think she would have told her father if Chan did spend the night? Question mark. The book said they are close. Are you that close to your parents that you could tell them about a person you are dating or sleeping with? When is the right time to bring the parents in? Yeah, when you come from a deeply religious Black family, you don't be telling people that you had visitors over. I'll let you ladies take the floor on that one first. Go ahead, ladies.
Absolutely freaking not. Never. You never involve your parents. Absolutely not. Heck no. Oh, I couldn't even imagine sitting and having an intimate conversation with my mom. Like that would just be odd for both of us, you know? But yeah, I mean, I think we've never even talked about that. Like, aside from growing up and, you know, you don't be fast and you keep your legs closed, you know, don't be bringing no babies in here. Like, you know, through your teenage puberty years, I mean, that was pretty much the gist of any conversation I had about sex with my mom, you know. And, you know, if you go to the doctor, get your checkups and stuff, you know, you might share a few details with your parents. But outside of that, yeah, that would just be too weird for me. I could never, you know, and I've never even seen my mom with the boyfriend, you know. So that I think has a large thing to play with it too. You know, that I've never even seen any intimacy from my parents, you know. So I couldn't.
I chuckled a little bit at this question because, of course, as a teenager, you kept everything from your parents, but me and Heidi have had some discussion, which is crazy because my mom is probably one of the most safe people you could know. But, man, I don't know. I'm kind of having a moment like maybe that's why my mom always thought I was the, you know, because I'm like, Mom, last night, you know, it ain't like, yeah, we had those talks. We talked and it was like, hey, this might be the guy, you know, blah, blah, blah. But me and her were close. And so, yeah, we you know, I wasn't going to talk to my dad about anything. Oh God, no, I wouldn't even talk with him about the weather. But, you know, with my mom, I felt, and by the way, I was grown. Okay. I wasn't like 17, 18. I mean, my mom, you know, like Corenna said, growing up in a religious household, my mom thought I was a virgin up until I actually had my son. She was like, wait, what? You were doing what? Like she had no clue. So I'm talking about once I was grown, and married, and even after being separated or anything, yeah, I would talk to her about it, but not my dad. I don't think, but to answer the question, I don't think Malia would tell her dad that. I mean, they have more serious things to talk about, like this money thing and her being ghosted, and like Kyrie touched on, the family even not involved. Why? You know, I'm like, whoa. We're not going to skip past all the betrayal and then I'm going to tell you who's in my bed. So, no, they have other things to talk about. I don't think she would have said anything about if Chan did stay the night, not to her dad. I don't know what kind of relationship she had with her mother, but if her father was able to successfully ghost her for so long, I'm assuming they probably weren't too close either. But yeah, I don't think Malia, her and her father got other things to discuss. But as far as talking with our parents, once I was grown, this is just my perspective. I don't know about Corenna. Kyrie says she didn't. But I did talk to my mom about, you know, any encounter I had. It weren't a lot. You know, I married the guy, but prior to us getting married, we were intimate and I told her about it. So, Corenna, go ahead, take over.
I was just shocked because when you did tell me, you're like, yeah, me and my mom have had these really crazy conversations. And I was like, oh, I was so shocked because growing up, I mean, her mother was a warden. And I was like, you know what? That's cool because that's her daughter. She was like, you my child too. Like, that's how it was. Like, I got pulled up. I got snatched by the hair, the neck, the arm. I was property of the Parkers as well. Like, I wasn't just a Scott baby. I was also a Parker child. And so, yeah. So, I mean, I think it was great that you and your mom could have those types of conversations, you know what I mean, as you became older, Because when we was kids, sex was off the table. We was not talking about it. Like, they made it just an evil, vile thing that, you fast, and what you thinking about that for, and who said something to you, and if somebody's trying to get in your drawers, like, everything was just so evil. And I just didn't understand. I'm like, how could all these people in church who have all these kids be so against sex? And even the thought or the conversation about it, like, it's not a weapon. It's an act that people do. It's a biological function. It's a need for some people, maybe not for some others. But anyways, no. Yeah. So no, my mother is not having any talks of sexual deeds. She thinks everything's of the devil. And you guys know, because I have told y'all some stories, my mother doesn't want to hear nothing. And my siblings like to kind of terrorize her a little bit and let her know, oh yeah, I get down like this. And she's like, you animal, the blood of Jesus, and get out of my house, and you're not going to kiss, don't you touch me, you know what I mean? And so I remember just, I'm an adult, I'm sitting on the couch like, she's like, Corenna, so are you going to tell what you've been over there doing with T? No, ma'am, no. And the thing was, she didn't even want to know. She just was like, I'm gonna open up a can on YouTube. Like, it wasn't like she really wanted to know. It was more of like, okay, so they arrested him and told me how freaky they are. And I want to know about you too. Because don't you kiss me in my face if you over there putting your mouth on people. And I'm like, God. So no, there would be no discussion of any of that. My mom thought everything sexual was evil. Just everything, So I don't even know how she even had kids. She thought that hickeys were of the devil. People putting their tongue in people's mouths was wrong. Yeah, 5. Like, you was doing something. You know what I mean? You got 5 babies. And talking about something, ain't no man ever put his tongue down in the mic, bro. Why he need to put his tongue down there for? Ma'am. That tongue has many uses. I mean, many uses. Anyways, yeah, she doesn't. Yeah, my mom was against everything. So no, there would never be a time where I could be like, Mom, and so-and-so spent the night last night, and it was amazing, and he was so gentle with me, but a little bit of rough. It was never like that. She would have just ate me up. We know. So I'm not surprised Malia didn't tell her father that she nearly had an encounter with some sexy man who she's been thinking she's been dreaming about. And he had been drinking a lot of alcohol. So, no, my father, my mother, none of their business.
I was wondering how, you turned out to be so open, being shunned so much, and forbidden and, all that stuff. And it's like, but you're still so free and so open, and you share. It had the reverse effect on me. It's so hard to talk about intimacy. Like, it'd be like pulling teeth. I just can't do it. Like, that's just between me and the person that I'm with. And, it doesn't exist, So I'm like, I've been having like pep talks with myself. Like, I know I'm going to have these conversations with my children one day, right? So, I've been exploring, talking about topics and, seeing how other parents do it. But definitely keeping those conversations like very short, tell them the important stuff and then get out there and throw dad in the room and I'm going to run the other way. I don't want to talk about it.
My dad was actually very sexually open. He wanted to, he would talk about these things with my older siblings, and my mom was like, oh, wait. And, she was just so, against that type of behavior. I would kind of be like peeping behind the walls, like, what they talking about, And so I remember like my dad had this whole conversation with my sister before she got married. And he was like, look, you can lay all that church girl stuff down. Okay. You getting married now, ma'am, you need to do whatever your husband said. He said, rock his world. You tear him up, make your daddy proud. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah. So it was just really, really crazy. I think so. Even though like a lot of that was like repressed type of like, sexually we weren't able to talk like that. I definitely think that it comes from my father, because my mom is not talking like that. And so I'm very like sexually open. Like, we don't talk about this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Carrie be like, oh, well, Corenna. And I'm like, girl, come on. Like, give me some juice. I'll be like, come on, because I feel like it's been so demonized, and I don't think it's an ugly thing. I think it's quite natural, but it's been demonized, and I'm not crazy.